Yeah.
I think we have to, as we are adults now, and as you get older, you have to forgive our parents, because the
Mm-hmm.
reality is our parents aren't as emotionally intelligent, and as sad as this gonna sound, it's gonna sound bad, but many Caribbean parents aren't that educated on certain things. They go based on their experience. They live their life
Yeah.
on experience primarily. That like that's the only thing. I'm not saying that yeah, this generation doesn't go on experience, but if you notice, like the generation that's coming up now, millennials, a lot of the things we live on is like based on what we've learned and researched. Like it
Mm-hmm.
could be good and bad, but a lot of times we drop what we believe when we go to college. You know, that's why people go to college and come back atheists and all these different things, because we have more technology and more information, and the upside of that is we have learned that there are some things that our parents been doing that we
Yeah.
need to reconsider, because studies have shown that it's trash. So I believe that the generation coming up is a little more emotionally intelligent and more educated. So now we see in this rift where we kind of changing over of cultures, and the culture is improving in some ways, and then it's also depleting in other ways. At the same time, we're becoming more rounded with certain things like emotions.
I think I think we're more curious. I think we
Mm-hmm.
question things a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
Mhm. We question literally everything. Um,
Me
I'm
too.
also in a I'm literally in the most questionable career path you could probably possibly have. I'm a scientist, so like my job is to question everything. So growing up, who are you to question your parents? A
Right.
black parent? Are you out of
Exactly.
your mind? At a black Caribbean parent at that? So when I went to college, and I went to a Christian university. I didn't went to a Seventh Day Adventist university. I went to a Christian university. I started to question things a little bit more because I got surrounded by people that were not the norm for me, that were outside of my quote unquote comfort zone at the time. And not only was I be questioning a lot of things, people were questioning me, making me question everything. So I'm just like, hold on, you know what? Give me a minute. Let me figure that out for you. Let me regardless of what it was about, whether it was about religion, education, race, whatever the case may be, I question a lot of things because people question me. So we're becoming more aware of mental health because we're learning to question a lot of things now. What happened to us when
Mm-hmm.
we were kids? Was that really okay? Are the feelings that I'm feeling validated? Is that okay for me to feel? So I think in combination with that, we're just more curious about the world. We're more curious about ourselves. We're more curious about our feelings as well.
Definitely. What are some of the things we can do to help to change the culture, and what are some of the things directly that we maybe haven't touched on that you think need to be changed about how, um, especially Black Caribbean persons in particular, approach mental health?
Um,
Or even
I
it's okay to go over. It's okay to go over some things you already discussed as well.
okay. Well, I guess two things for me. The first time my church did a serious mental health thing was when the church found out that Steve was struggling with depression while at Oakwood University, their school, right? So it in all my years of going, it was always a brush off topic, a 5 minute segment, like every 3 years. You know, my mom found out because I was in a tough spot and I had to call her and let her know. And she decided to share it with the prayer people at prayer meeting. That was one of her prayer requests, and that's kind of how it exploded in my church. That like Steve, like Steve, who at Oakwood is, it was almost like a shock because it's like the church raised me. I am a product of about 50 to 70 people in my church who had a part or a hand to play into what you see now. And when they heard that, it kind of shook them up a little bit. And I think for the church is we realistically just have to share our story. I didn't even share my story. They don't even
Mm-hmm.
know they don't even know 90% of what went on. All they know is Steve is mentally ill while at an Adventist college. That's it. That's all it took for them to do that. So imagine if I open my mouth and I say some of the stuff that I've been going through, then it's gonna be like, oh no, we need to do this every month. We need to preach about this every month. And it sucks that it takes somebody like me to do it. It should be the little kid in the back who never talks, right? It should be that child that no one knows. You know, they surrounded by a whole bunch of people, but they ain't talking to nobody. It shouldn't be the guy who always on stage. It shouldn't be the kid we watch grow up. It shouldn't be that guy. I think with the church, that's just it is what it is. You have to share your story, and someone will listen because somebody in that church cares about you. Um, it might rattle a few cages because where we from, you don't really do mental health seminars and stuff like that. And I think as far as culture go, like the rest of the world, um, I really hate to say it, but they're on beat on this side in America. Like, my teachers noticed something and they kind of pulled me to the side and was like, hey, like they're on beat on this side. The Bahamian culture, that's gonna take a long time. A lot of times you will get the it could be worse. You will get the you're exaggerating. Somebody I love told me that, excuse my language, can I curse in this? No, wait.
Give a censored version.
Okay, censor. So basically,
Yeah,
somebody I love
controversial.
basically said,
Quiet.
I don't want to hear about this depression ish anymore. Just like that. That's what they said. Somebody who watched me grow up said that. Like they just said that, and I didn't say a single word. I literally cried inside, and it was crazy because I was driving past the lake by the airport. Like how sad is that, bro? How and I couldn't cry. I couldn't cry. I was like, no, I refuse to let you break me down right now. And when I left that summer, I just put in my head that I will never share, that side of me with that person again because that's the attitude they had towards it, and I don't blame them. I don't. That's just their mentality. And the Caribbean is gonna take a while to be on beat, but it's sorry to say we have to be the change. We have to tell our kids that you know it's fine. You're good. You don't want to go to school today because you're sad. A lot of times you just have to you just have to figure out whether you're being played or not, like I did with that girl, right? I was being played. I didn't know that. I thought
Mm-hmm.
I was genuinely helping somebody, but I was being played. There are people out there who will use, they might actually have a mental illness, but they may use that against you. I don't know how to, get on beat with that. Like, I don't know how you're going to decide if someone suicidal or not. I don't know how to, I can't be the one to figure everything out. But I think we just have to be intentional. We have to be one with the Holy Spirit. Let Him lead us, so we can
Discernment.
know what to say, when to say it, when not to say it. Because the Caribbean, they ain't, some things they ain't gonna change, and it's gonna take us. It's gonna take, what do they call us? I don't matter what they call us, but it's gonna take us and with our kids because our parents are raising us the way they were raised. I'm not raising my kids the way I was raised because a lot of things they did wrong. I'm not blaming them, but I'm not going down that route because I'm not gonna be the reason my son can't cry in public. Like I'm not taking that away from him because that's definitely, I think it shows weakness when I can't cry certain places. Like I feel as if at that point, I'm taking away my humanity because that's a feeling I should feel, and that's a feeling I need to release. Because if I don't, I could end up hurting myself or somebody else down the line. Um,
Mhm.
that was a mouthful. I am so sorry.
I like
I
what you
just
said
realized.
though.
Yeah, but that's just.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're gonna change the church. And as far as the culture goes in the Caribbean, I think we ourselves have to be the change. We have to educate our friends and our families. Um, as far as the older folks go, man, they done old, man. Let them do what they do.
Yeah.
What that
Yeah.
system been working for them, our system been working for us. We still trying to figure it out. Once we find that formula, let's share it. And that's just that.
I
Mhm.
think what we're doing right now, like just having this discussion, um, is opening up so much, is bridging the gap for so many young people out there that are struggling. And that doesn't go to say that maybe our parents, you never know, our parents might actually be this, but the thing is, they don't know they're struggling with it. And for me at least, and I think Keith mentioned it as well, that he didn't know that's what he was struggling with at the time. I didn't know that's what
Right.
I didn't know I was struggling with depression at a young age. I mean, now I know I struggle with anxiety and depression now, but that's because I'm more educated about it. So having discussions like this, putting ourselves out there where we're telling our story makes it easier for people that can come out of their shell and say, well, you know what? Hey mom, hey dad, I struggle with this. Or they can find someone that they, that they can confide in and say, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? I think there's also nothing wrong with not going to a parent or someone who loves you dearly right off the bat about a situation like this, because that can actually induce a whole another issue. It could be a whole toxic relationship after that. I still have yet to talk to my parents about it. I've had someone talk on behalf of me because I know the way I feel my parents would respond would not be helpful for me. And I'm still working up that courage to talk to them about it. So just allowing us to be, just having Keith bringing us on here and talking about it, that's definitely something we can do. Just like helping people just educate our parents, like, hey, this is a thing that's going on in my life. Like for Steve, he said the people at his school like notice things. My advisor tells us almost on every 2 weeks or every so often, if you are struggling, let me know. I can refer you to the counseling office. I am here if you need to. But it's also important to remember that certain people in your life are not counselors. We are not counselors
Mhm.
for our friends. Our friends can come to us and talk to us about their issues. And it's more than okay to say, well, in my experience, here's how I dealt with something similar. But we're not counselors. So
Right.
don't feel obligated to counsel somebody or feel obligated to go to someone who you love and make them your counselor. Absolutely not. That's a terrible idea. Don't do that. But it's
Mhm.
okay to share your story and educate other people on what's going on. And if that means I gotta come back home and start telling my parents about everything and everyone in my path that mental health is a problem, let's start a seminar, let's get this going. That's what we gotta do, because we're the future of the world. It's
Right.
not our parents anymore, it's us. So we gotta play our part.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah, Tanya kind of hit what I wanted to say too, as well as Steve, both of them actually. Um, to make change, one, we have to stop silencing ourselves because it doesn't matter what message you bring to the world, there's always going to be some resistance and some opposition. But in order for change to be effective, you have to be willing to face that opposition and to face that resistance. That's one thing. The next thing is I think people need to be aware that because we go through certain things, it's not our fault. That's another thing that a lot of people struggle with. They feel like it's their fault. They did something and that's why they feel the way they feel. Or if they had behaved better as a kid, or if like it's not our fault that we went through what we went through. and the various situations that could lead to where we're at. It's not our fault. Some of us have the chemical imbalance. Some of us just have some really terrible situations happening on repeat, or some of us are traumatized and fall into a pattern. It's not our fault. Um, Another thing is seek professional. Seek professional help because you go into your friend, me going to my friend. I don't know what my friend went through or what my friend is going through. And you have spirits like Steve and Daniel who will take on what their friends are going through to be of assistance. Well, maybe not Daniel so much, but Steve definitely. Like they decide to take it on. And you don't want to cause your friend to be in a worse situation, as well as you don't want terrible advice because, once again, we are speaking from our experiences, but what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. And you don't want, I wouldn't want to give a friend advice and they end up feeling worse because they took my advice. So I feel like you need to actually promote and push for people to to make it commonplace to see a counselor, even if you don't think anything is wrong. Go and see a counselor just once a month, even once every 3 months. Just go see a counselor, sit down, talk to them because a lot of issues. When I went to the counselor, I went to the counselor at NCU. um, I went there because of a situation that was happening in my family at the time, and I thought that was it. But they made me do a test, and when I took the test, I remember the person who administered the test. She looked at me. It was the secretary. She looked at me and she said, she looked at the test. She looked at the answers. And she said, "Hold on one second. I'll be right back." And she brought another test paper to me. And it turns out that my depression was extremely severe. They had me marked as they had me on watch for self harm. I had to write up a contract with them saying that I will not self harm. And my anxiety levels were through the roof. And these are things that I never even, like, it wasn't even in the back of my head. I just went because I just wanted someone to talk to about my family issue without realizing that everything stemmed back from so much further. And when I went to counseling, we didn't even talk about the family issue. But through counseling, I was able to, they have now released me from regular counseling. And I just come back once every few months to check in and make sure I'm still doing okay. And so it's a lot of things. When you go to professionals, they know what they're looking for and they know how to help. And not every professional is going to tell you what you want to hear. And not every professional is very godly. So you might have some like the one who told Donnie, it could be worse. It could always be worse. You will have one or two like that, but they don't speak for all of the professionals, and you might have to shop around until you find a counselor that you can actually learn from. And raising our kids is another one. We have the responsibility now because our parents did the best that they could do. Now we have the responsibility of doing the best that we can do, and we're not going to get everything right. So don't take it upon yourself if you see a child crying because of something you did. We're human, just like our parents are human. We're not going to get everything 100%, but it's our job to do our best and to try and to make corrections to the things that we know for a fact shouldn't be. And hopefully our children take it a step further when it's their turn. And that's how you affect change, little by little. Not It's not going to be a big wave that sweeps over everybody at the same time, but in our little corner where we're at, we work and we educate and we raise our kids and the kids that are entrusted to us. If we're teachers, mentors in church and that type of stuff, we're surrounded by children, we're surrounded by young people who are looking for love, unconditional love. And so we do our best to help them change their perspective on mental illness as well as life. And then we start to see a change.
Oh, sorry, my mic was mute. I said I love it. I love it. Tori, can you share with us? What do you think could be done? What else you think may you can add to what may need to be done to help to change the culture positively as it relates to mental health?
Um, all right. So what has worked for me is community. Even though I was reserved or I have been reserved in some areas, I've always had support of persons, even though they didn't understand what I was going through, they picked up that something was wrong. So, community is important, but it's difficult for us to truly be transparent when all we're thinking about is judgment, or others judging us. The whole matter of being vulnerable. I recently shared a post on Instagram. I've been starting this storytelling thing. So whenever I post a photo, I give it a nice caption. And
Yeah.
one person commented she admired how vulnerable I was in being open about that particular post. And I wanted to actually, well, I spoke about this with somebody. It's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be transparent, but at the same time, it takes, I don't want to say it takes a strong person, it takes growth to actually reach there, because
Mhm.
yeah, it takes growth. So I must say community is important, and accountability. I've shared um my story in full with somebody close to me, and I told my mother that I shared this with that person, and she said okay, and then she came back again and she said, yes, I really wish you did not share. But the thing is, accountability is good, because that person, even though I don't really want her pity, I don't want it to pity me, I just want it to be there to listen.
Mhm.
And I mean, you can check in from time to time, but don't be too direct, because I will resent you. And I did tell her that. But accountability is good. It is key. You need to let people know what you're going through. Meditation. So four things: therapy, community, meditation, and faith. All tie them together, and I think we can improve on what we actually experience. Yeah.
It's us, all we ever need is love. Been down so long, right now all we see is up, yeah. Life ain't perfect, but still be grateful, that's a must, yeah. Embrace the challenges, yeah. Embrace your challenges, embrace your challenges.